Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Each week, my co-hosts Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we are reviewing Sister Death, which is streaming now on Netflix beginning October 27th, 2023. I can't wait to talk about this. This is going to be interesting. It's a prequel to Veronica, right? Veronica? The title of that, right, Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll get into all that here in a little bit. Before we get to the review, let me introduce my crew, starting off with Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm good. I have not. Never mind.
Oh my gosh. Swipe. All right. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Mohr.
What's up?
What up?
Yeah, I feel like I've watched a lot of nun movies this week for some reason.
You can't say you've watched. Never mind. I'm not going to go with that joke. I do want to, since there's only the three of us tonight, I do want to stop for a second. And Christopher G. Mohr, you shared some news about your film. You did one segment of 3 getting distributed. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I directed a segment in a travel horror anthology called Worst Laid Plans, and we were sort of at the end of our Film Fest tour, and we signed contracts with Terror Films, and so it's gonna be released worldwide distribution, streaming wise, in the future. As to when that'll be, I don't know, but I'm sure I'll let everybody know when it happens. But yeah, Terror Films has released a lot of different stuff. We've covered on Gruesome Magazine. I think the some of the Hell House stuff they've released. So yeah, I'm kind of excited to have something that's going to be released out. I don't know where it'll show up. It'd be, but I guess we'll find out soon, and I'll definitely let you guys know. So.
Yeah, out into the wild. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you. It's pretty cool.
All right. Whoa, that's ugly. Let's don't do that. All right. Let's get into the review. What we're going to do is give you our first impression. That first impression will be spoiler-free, and then we'll discuss the film. And while we discuss it, we may get into a spoiler or two, so beware. And then we'll wrap things up with a score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. And we hope that you enjoy not only this review, but many others that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend buttons. They're easy and free to do. And every click helps us find more horror fans just like you. Yeah. All right, let's take a look at the card and see what we're covering tonight. There you go. Sister Death, 2023 Netflix, also known as Hermana Muerte. Available streaming on Netflix beginning October 27, 2023. The synopsis is: after a childhood marked by miracle, Narcisa, a novice nun, joins a school to teach young girls. It's directed by Paco Plaza, written by Paco Plaza and Jorge Guerricaechevarría. No, that's close, and that's the only time I'm doing it. Cast includes a whole bunch of names that I'm going to screw up, so I'm not even going to try. So let's move on. Yeah, there's sometimes you just punt. That's one of them. I was actually thinking about giving it a try, but it's been long.
Muy bueno.
Yeah, yes. It would have been muy mal. But anyway, let's find out what our first impressions are. Starting off with Jeff. Jeff, what was your first impression of Sister Death?
Well, I was kind of predisposed to be favorable to this because of the director's previous history with the Rec films, and Veronica I liked quite a bit, and this one did not disappoint. It's got a lot of it's kind of a mystery mixed into this spiritual ghost story, I guess, and I enjoyed the heck out of it. I thought the acting was really good. There's a few main characters that get a lot of play. I don't know. I just enjoyed it. There was some really cool shots. The cinematography, like, it reminded me of a place I've actually been, but the shots of going down this long hallway in the convent that had all these arch structures above. Looked really cool. Symmetry. I like symmetry sometimes. So, and I thought the lead actress was really good. I don't know how you say it. Aria Bedmar. She was excellent. She was excellent, as was the one who played Julia, Maru Valdivielso. And I'm sure I said that wrong. They were also very good, and a couple of the children, because it was a kids' school. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was creepy and had a couple of good jump scares. And it leads nicely into, there's a nice little stinger at the end that leads you into what in the hell does this have to do with Veronica as a prequel. So
yes, it does. Yeah, I appreciated that as well. I think we talked about it pre-show, but that really worked.
I'm gonna like that again. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. You're gonna watch that again, Christopher G. Mohr. What is your first impression of Sister Death?
I've never seen Veronica, so I don't know what it ties into, but yeah, I enjoyed the film. I think more than anything, it's like, man, are all nuns? I mean, I guess I need to learn a little bit more about the Catholic faith or whatever form of it is, but do nuns actually get married to Christ? Is that they put him in a wedding dress? I was like, I think the horrific part for me was like the religious standards or things they have to do as nuns. I was like, this is kind of messed up. Yeah, I will say that the movie is very slow. It's a slow burn for the majority of the film, until we get some big revelation towards the end. But it didn't turn me off to it. I think it helps having that foundation of that main actress who does such an amazing job in sort of like keeping her emotions at check and trying not to show too much, but you can see it through her eyes and through her physicality. And you know, it does have those kind of interesting spooky moments and stuff. And what is it about churches and creepy basements with a bunch of creepy iconography in it? It's like, I don't want to go any church basement anytime soon, because I feel like we learned from Nun 2 and this, you just don't go to those, you know, parts of the church people don't go to, because it's very creepy. But overall, it's an interesting story, and I think I didn't know anything about this. I think I might have seen a bit of a trailer a while back, but I think we think of a lot of these nun stories. We just think of some like Nun 2. We think of some evil nun or whatever. And I think Jeff said it best, is this is like a supernatural mystery type thing, which you have that sort of, she's the Benoit Blanc without the French accent or humor. But it's a very dark movie, and it's definitely got some dreary subject matter that shows up later. But yeah, it's really shot really well. It's got some really nice cinematography in parts. And it is kind of cool how you have these things that happen that it all ties together to end why these things happen. Like, why does the chair keep falling over? Things like that. Really, story-wise, everything kind of ties into all these different things by the end that we find out what happened in this parish where these nuns are, or this place used to be a parish, is now a girls' school or whatever. But yeah, I think it's got an interesting story. It's got some really well-acted performances. But just know it is a very slow burn. It's not really fast paced at any point, I think. But it doesn't necessarily have to, because just how it plays out. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed this quite a bit too. I liked Veronica, and I was excited that this was a prequel to it. I wasn't really sure where they were going, And as I was watching the movie, I still wasn't sure how it was tied together. But at the same time, I was really intrigued. It really caught my attention. It's kind of gothic in the way it's presented. It starts out kind of like a drama, a human drama about a character, and then it starts to become a ghost story, and then it turns into a mystery, and then all hell breaks loose, kind of seriously. and it is a slow burn, but it's not a slow burn where you're like, oh god, this is taking so long. I mean, I think it was really, for me at least, it drew me in. I was interested, and I think a lot of it is because the lead actress is so good, and the kids are good too, where she interacts with the kids, and they're integral to the storytelling of the ghost, right? Without them, you wouldn't get all the background that leads to the discoveries later on. And even when we get to the reveals and we get to, this true horror story, the pace picks up, but it only just picks up, right? It doesn't really get that much faster. It just starts getting a little bit more right? And I appreciated that too. In the end, I really liked it. I like Paco Plaza, like you said, with the Rec films and with Veronica and other films that he's done. And he certainly has a flair, and he has a command of the subject and the genre. So all that comes together. And there's been like a number of nun films that we've covered, right, Jeff, over the past couple of years, outside of The Nun itself. And this one holds up, I think, to all of them. It's a good show. It's a good show.
Yeah.
Well, I think when we talk about the slow burn aspect of it, I think what doesn't take you out of it is because there is that mystery element.
Mm-hmm.
All these weird things start happening, and we're just like her trying to figure out why is this happening? Why, why am I having these? Why is she having these visuals, these images pop up, or why when I'm eating this thing for church, why does an eyeball come out of my mouth? It's like, or why is someone writing the little hangman figure outside my door? I mean, there's all these different things that.
Why does the chair keep falling over?
Yeah, we get all these little bread pieces that are taking us to where we need to go, and so you're just like you're trying to figure out, okay, well, there's enough there to keep you interested to figure out like what did happen here and why is she getting all these visions in regard to this, and so I think more than anything, I think that's what keeps you going. I think sometimes slow burns, there's not a lot happening and you don't have enough to sort of push you forward or be interested in going forward. In this you do, because regardless of the slowness of it, you're just as interested to figure out like where her journey is taking her and what are we going to learn from what happened at this place. And then of course, when all that stuff comes to a head, all that stuff starts happening and there's retribution, this retribution that happens towards the end. That's when it's like, okay, this is what we've been waiting for. We get the slow burn, and now we get this sort of like boom, huge explosion of burn that happens at the very end. That's very impactful and interesting. Once we find out actually what happened.
Yeah. It was.
Go ahead.
It was kind of frustrating, and the frustration I felt, I think, was the same frustration that Sister Narcissa, who was the lead character's name before she becomes Sister Death, I guess. But the frustration she has in that she asks questions, but she can't get any answers. Mm-hmm. And you can't tell if it's because she's just a novice nun and she's not allowed to ask questions, or if they're hiding something. Because they kind of use that authority over here. Just shut up and do what you're told, as seems like sort of the attitude, or you're just stirring the girls up, that kind of stuff.
Which is effective.
But it's also what they would say if they had something to hide. And so you're frustrated like she is, because she's trying to find out what's going on, and she's the only place she can get any information is from the girls.
Yeah. I think it helps that the character is so strong, because we were told about this event, and actually we're shown. We're not told. We're shown this event that she had at a young age, where she was basically she was involved with a miracle, right? But she comes to this convent or whatever, but this school, but she's full of doubt, self-doubt. So there's a conflict, an inner conflict that makes just
to it.
Yeah, just asking the questions is a conflict in and of itself with her. So it really, to me, that really held the film together. It was a very strong writing choice. And of course, all of the elders, looked down on her, didn't believe her, and some of them even spited her for it, right? And so a lot of that added up to a very compelling storyline to keep you.
And Sister Julia was a very aggressively dominating personality too.
Yeah.
So was the Mother Superior too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, she was a little nice. She smiled while she did it, but
There's some interesting scenes with her running around when she changes her tune, if you will, when she goes from being authoritative to frightened. That she's that character is so strong and authoritative throughout the film, but when it turns the tide at the end, the fear that she feels that much stronger, I think, which I found very interesting. And it was also interesting, and Christopher, I'd like your take on this, that there was like a past event and a current event happening simultaneously with these characters, at least two of them.
Yeah.
That was really interesting in what it was implying. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know how that works out. After watching things like Loki, I don't know if there's some kind of we've crossed into different timelines, but yeah, it does remind me of other films that I guess Dead Again kind of falls into that frame as well, with alternate lives and stuff. But yeah, it is kind of interesting how she's kind of almost taps into this sort of supernatural, going back in time type thing, to where you go back to that, almost taps, like what they always say, that like sometimes ghosts are attached to a location based on an event that happened there, and maybe there's certain parts of the day where that event just reoccurs over and over, and how she sort of like, by having her sort of like epiphany by staring into an eclipse or whatever, she's able to sort of tap into the issue at hand that they've been trying to keep hidden for so long and trying to make sure nobody knows about.
Kind of taps into what happened to her when she was a child.
So it's almost like bringing the truth to light opens that door for them, for this evil that's been kind of, not evil, but this person who's been trapped and wants to seek retribution against these people that treated her and her daughter wrongly. So, and at the same time, I was like, well, I guess this is not, I don't know if is this religious retribution, or is it what part of yeah, it was like, I think the revenge aspect of it kind of falls outside the lines of, because if she's supposed to have like a religious epiphany or whatever of what happened here, is like God saying, I'm going to allow this dead woman to seek retribution on these nuns. So I don't know what other arching ideas are created here.
They got their penance. Let's put it that way. They got their penance.
I guess so. But,
well, there's an interesting line too about, and I know I don't have it right, and I think it's Sister Julia says something to her about, you have to see with more than your eyes, or something like that. Or sometimes you can't see with your eyes. I can't remember exactly how she says it, but it really leads into where things end up.
And for those horror fans listening or watching, there is a ghost in this. There is a very visual appearance, manifestation of all the mystery, and I found it incredibly creepy and goosebumpy. It produced goosebumps. I don't know if it was scary, but I certainly was creeped out.
Well, it's without giving too much away, it's almost like the embodiment of her dead body when she was buried, and so to see that, it's like, oh crap, that's
well. We should, I think, help me out here. This takes place in 1949, I believe. Is that right?
It was after the war, but
I think they
can't
show
remember
her
how many wars.
miracles in 1939, and then they say 10 years later.
Okay, all right.
I think so. Shortly after the war.
Yeah, and the events that happened were, during the war, because it was all about, right? Wasn't it about the war was over, but it wasn't. Anyway, all that aside, you'll watch the movie, find out all about that, because it's not that's what happens is actually horrific in and of itself. And of course, it wasn't made any better by those that should have supported her, and which goes to the revenge aspect of it.
Yeah, and but I mean, time going back to what we're talking about, how we have that sort of, I guess, time travel element. It's not really time travel, but we get the intersection of those of the contemporary and past. I mean, because you have the one nun that kind of dies from the location that where the daughter dies.
Well,
Yeah, there's like
dies from that.
Yeah,
it's like there's a parallel, like there's parallel things that happen in the past and the present, but when they're showing them, they cut back and forth between them at the same time, like they're showing different. It's interesting. It's and I think it works. It worked for me.
Yeah, there's one death that's like you see it in both. Well, you see a couple deaths in both timelines, but the effects of one death was crushing.
Oh, it was it was yeah. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, man. Actually.
So horror fans, I guess my point is earlier was stick with it, because it does pay off. It does get into the horror. The hints of ghosts and stuff comes, manifest. So enjoy it.
Because a lot of it, I mean, a lot of the story in the very beginning is almost like the minutia of being a nun, in this place or whatever. And so, and you have the little creepy things that happen from time to time, but you just have to, keep watching and you'll be fully rewarded by the end.
Yep, fully. All right, well, let's go ahead and
except for Jeff.
Let's go ahead and get into our score and our favorite scene, and we'll hopefully we'll get Jeff in here as well. So, Christopher, you're up first.
I'm gonna give this a 4.25. I think I was kind of worried in the very beginning, because I was like, oh no. I'm worried this is going to be boring or whatever, but I think, again, it all comes down to getting really good performances and getting really good actors in place to sort of embody those characters to where you care about them and you're vested in them as they go along and as all these specific issues start happening. But I think it's got some really great cinematography that creates a sort of haunting. This location that should be a place of, religious people, it's very haunting, but as for favorite scene, I'm gonna have to steal I'm probably gonna steal this for somebody, but yeah, I think the head crushing
that was so
scene, because I think you see this. We talked about the creepy statues in the basement, whatever, but there's a statue that it's implied that it falls over and hits her on her head, but you just see it's really effective. I know they probably had to do it mostly, maybe possibly through CGI, but just how you see that it crushes into her head, but you don't see the statue there. You just see her face crack in. It's like, wow, that's impactful. Yeah. So that I was like, wow, I can't unsee that.
The past caught up with her, and it was interesting.
yeah. So I was like, wow, that is something I haven't seen. So I think that's one of those things where the whole element of the intersecting of two different timelines or whatever, to see the end product of what happened if that thing came, but without seeing it, it's like, crap, that it's kind of creepy, because it's almost like a ghost crushing her face in. So
Jeff, welcome back.
What was your score, Chris?
4.25.
Okay, imagine that. Well, I know what you're going to ask me, Doc, so I'll just go ahead. I had a 4.25.
Nice.
I enjoyed this. It's I don't know how to explain it. It's unique, I think, in a lot of ways, in the way that they managed to show things and what happened. So, and the way they interweave this mystery with the atmosphere of all the characters in this, now a girls' boarding school, I guess. Favorite scene, this is probably going to seem a little lame, but when she first shows up at the school and they put her in front of the classroom and she starts to write her name on the board, and all the girls are whispering, "Oh no, she's writing her name. She's writing." You know, you kind of hear this murmur going on in the background, and she never quite finishes writing her name because a couple girls jump up and say they have to leave the room. So you don't know what the hell's going on, but you know there's some legend or something going on there that, you know, it's not good that she's writing her name. So that right away sucked me in more than anything else right at the beginning. I wanted to find out what these girls knew that nobody else seemed to act like nothing bad was going on. So
yeah, I like that scene too. I was going to give it a 3.75. I feel like I should be rethinking my score because but I like I said, I really enjoyed this. My favorite scene, I'm just going to go with the horror fan in me, and that's the reveal of the actual spirit, the ghost, when appears in the room and comes over to her, and paired with the reveal of the ghost demise earlier, right?
Mm-hmm,
you know, and the explanation of the chair falling over. I just found that thing incredibly creepy, and you know, it really didn't do a whole lot, right? But it was just, I don't know, man. It was just like, I really thought they did a great job with something very subtle.
Yeah. Well, there was these physical manifestations that start right away when she moves in.
Oh, yeah.
And later you find out exactly they're not just physical manifestations.
Yeah.
They're they're not just poltergeists. There's an actual reason for this.
Yes, and I like that. I like that. But it didn't feel like it was like hit me over the head, right? It was like, it was like a revelation, a reveal, as opposed to, you know, hammering it home. I also like the fact that she let her out, but she actually let her out in the past. That was a really interesting aspect. You know, like she changed the past, is what they were implying, because she was locked in the room, but she set the spirit free, and the deaths. It was there's a whole, you know, the whole timeline thing I found very, very interesting. All right, well, there you go. That's our review of Sister Death. It is streaming now on Netflix. Check it out and let us know in the comments what you think of the film as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And for those who have been commenting, thank you so much. We do read all the comments, and they are so good. So good. Thank you so much. Jeff, Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
You betcha. It was
always fun.
All right. No, in November, we're recording this on November 1st. So, yes, post Halloween blues. Oh, my.
Every day is Halloween.
Every day is Halloween except for November 1st. That's the only one that is.
What?
That's because it's like, never mind. It doesn't make any difference. All right. Jeff, Christopher, let's get out of here. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night, everybody.